Welcome to Circle of Hearts Radio. Journey with Grandmother Allayah as she enters her magical world of relics, sacred sites, and ancient crystal skulls. Meet with exciting trailblazer authors and individuals shifting the consciousness of humanity. Send her your questions to be answered on air on her monthly segment, Ask the Oracle. And now your host, Grandmother Allayah, in the sanctuary on the airwaves on OMTimes Radio.
Up in the northern hemisphere, there's feelings of renewal, rebirth, and it's lovely to see all the plants start to bloom and whatever. And people in our awakening consciousness are becoming more aware of plant medicine. Now, people that know me usually know that I connect to people through spiritual guidance. And months ago, I came across Evert Hopman on checking out another interview, and I was very drawn, and I didn't even realize the books that she had written at the time. So I contacted her, we made arrangements, and then I found out, she has many of these wonderful books coming out, which we're going to speak about. One of the newest ones are Secret Medicines from Your Gardens, Plants for Healing, Spirituality, and Magic. And she has a new book about Druids coming out. So we have a wonderful hour ahead of us. So to make things short, I'm going to bring on Ellen. How are you?
Hi, thanks very much for inviting me.
I know you're a very busy lady, so I really appreciate this. I know you're becoming well known as on a lot of the interviews here. There's much of your work. I don't even know where to start. I was going to say your own personal journey in life, your own soul calling. When would you say this definite interest in herbalism and Druidism came about? I mean, did it start at a young age, or did it was one of these aha moments?
Well, both, actually. When I was a teenager, I had a very strong sense that I needed to know how to survive. I just had this sense that I needed to know where I could get food for myself, if there was an emergency of some kind. If the civilization came crashing down, how would I survive? So I always had this really strong sense that I needed to do that, but I had no idea where to look. My family was not involved with any of this. My school certainly wasn't. Any religious training that I had certainly didn't talk about this. It was just a feeling that I had inside of me. And slowly over the years, I just started piecing a few things together. I did spend some time with Native American elders and teachers, and of course they talked a lot about the sacred nature of plants and trees and rocks and earth and fire, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It absolutely resonated with me. But eventually I went on to become an art history major at Temple University, which is not that far from you, I guess.
No.
And I had a scholarship to go to Rome. They sent me to Italy to study Italian art, which wasn't what I particularly wanted to study. My interest was really early American photography, and I was actually working at a museum in Philadelphia cataloging early American photographs, but Temple said, oh no, you have to go to Rome. Like, okay, I was a straight A student, I was a presidential scholar and all that, and so they basically just dropped a scholarship on my head and So I said, okay, I guess I'm going to Rome. So I went to Italy, and I was studying art history, and I was writing my master's thesis. And at one point, I decided to go to Assisi to look at the frescoes of Giotto, the artist Giotto. There are these beautiful frescoes in the cathedral, which I hope are still there, because there have been earthquakes since then, and I don't know what state they're in. But I just went to look at the frescoes, which showed the life of Saint Francis.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got there, what I saw at that time were these incredible frescoes all around the edge of the ceiling of the cathedral, and there was a lot of gold leaf and gilt, on these frescoes. And I knew that wasn't right. Something wasn't right about it, because I knew enough about St. Francis to know that was, that wasn't the way he lived or what he believed in. So I started looking for a priest or a monk, somebody that I could ask about this. So I walked up to this Franciscan monk. He was in the brown robes and, with a rope around his waist and the sandals, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I said, how can I find out about the life of St. Francis, how he really lived? And the monk said, go to San Maceo. And I said, what's that? And he said, don't ask any questions, just go. So he said, it's down the road this way, so I went down the road and saw this little sign. It said San Maceo. It was a hand-painted sign on a piece of wood. And on the left of the road was San Damiano, which is the church where St. Clare lived. And then on the other side was the road to San Maceo. So I went across the street, went down this little muddy path. It opened up. There was this big grassy area. There were sheepfolds. There were students lying around on the grass, and they said, oh, have you come here to live? And I said, I don't know. What is this place? And then I found out it was a Franciscan community, and it was the real deal. It was cold water, no hot water, animals milling around, chickens and ducks in the buildings, wandering around at will, and gardens and straw mattresses and, bread that was made in a hearth, a stone hearth.
Right.
And it was a basically a medieval setup. Anyway, I stayed there for a while and went back to Rome, put all my possessions away, and then came back and stayed there for a while. And when I lived there, we had Mass twice a day, and then on Wednesday we were supposed to go wandering in the desert. And fasting. We weren't allowed to have anything except water or herbal tea on that day. So I had my tea and I left, and I just started walking, and I ended up on the top of Mount Subasio, which is this hill where St. Francis used to go. And while I was up there, I was above the tree line, so it was just grass and one little tiny pine tree. That's all I remember. So I was up there, and this big storm came up, and there was thunder and lightning and snow all at once.
Wow.
This was in October. So I did the worst possible thing, which was I curled myself around the tree. I don't know why I did that, but I did. Anyway, the storm went by very quickly, and I was soaked. I came down the hill. There was snow caked on my shoulders, and I was singing at the top of my lungs in Italian, coming down the hill. And I came to this little chapel, which was actually built by St. Francis, and that's also across the street from San Damiano. Went in there, and it was a pre-Gothic Romanesque chapel, so it was very dark in there. I went in there, I sat down, and, when I'm in Europe, that's what I love to do. I generally hang out in churches. I love to do that. Anyway, so I went in there, And all of a sudden I heard this voice, and there was nobody there but me, and I heard this voice, and the voice said, everything you've been doing up until now was for status and intellect and to please your parents. You're supposed to be working with plants. And somehow I knew that was true. I knew it was absolutely correct. And I started mentally unloading everything I was doing, the graduate school program, the thesis I was writing. I just mentally started dropping all of that. And the more I dropped what I was doing, the lighter and lighter and lighter I felt. And I actually, for the next few months, I had this incredible energy. And I wrote about this experience in the book, Secret Medicines from Your Garden.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
There's a part in there I don't think I mentioned, which is I had all this energy, and I really didn't know what to do with it. It's almost like the chi in my system was really, really activated. And when I went back to Rome eventually, I was having breakfast one morning at this pensione where I was staying, and there was this woman who used to bring me tea and toast in the morning, and I said, "Oh, how are you doing?" in Italian, and she said, "Oh, malo di fegato, my liver hurts. My liver is bad," and she pointed to her liver. So that night, I was lying in bed, and this energy that I was feeling inside of me just was getting stronger and stronger, and I just literally, it was almost painful. I didn't know what to do with it. So I thought of this woman who had the painful liver, and I took the energy, mentally took the energy, and I said, send it to her. And the next morning, I came down to have my tea and my toast, and the same woman came shuffling over with the tea, and I said, how are you doing today? And she said, my liver doesn't hurt anymore.
Wow.
And she said, and you did it.
That's great. And we're going to have a quick break. Wow. That's really, really exciting. We can continue after a quick break, Helen.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Allayah, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Join Elliot Jollish, the business therapist, each Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Elliot Jollish Hour, as he interviews business experts on your behalf. And you're invited to email your business questions to questions@ecjgroup.com for answers, live, on air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Elliot Jollish Hour. Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
You know, added that to this discussion. Were you in your 20s around that time? Somewhere in your 20s?
Yes, my late 20s.
Because I know from esoteric studies that I've, read, there are different periods of a person's life or soul path that they'll have a spiritual awakening. And it sounded like you had a very, almost like a Kundalini experience where everything sort of shaken loose and you became very clear and focused in your beginning of your healing patterns or energies to share.
Well, I think the fasting had a lot to do with that, and that's something that I highly recommend. Because I've only done that a few times in my life. I mean, I actually did a 4-day no food, no water fast. I've only done that once, but I did that with a Cree elder. And when you do that, that is what's really powerful. And it's hard to do because in order to survive in this culture, which is a very heavy culture, you almost have to defend yourself by eating food and, it just armoring yourself kind of with food and just to survive because we're assaulted by media and the stresses of life and all that. So taking time out to do a fast, it requires a lot of organization. You have to kind of be in a time and place where you can drop everything,
I think you think you need to. Yeah, I was going to say you need to do the research.
Right, you can't just stop eating. It doesn't work like that. I mean, you have to ease into it. I think you have to, rational fasting is what I call it. You have to start by slowly eating a more vegetable, fruit kind of diet and then go to nothing but soups and juices, and then you can go to just water and tea, and then when you come out of it, same thing, come out of it with fruit juices and fresh fruits, slowly go in and slowly come out. But you also need time. You have to carve out a good week, at least, where you're not going to be assaulted by other people's needs or by the pressures of your job. I mean, it really requires a lot of preparation. But if you do that, if you do it with a lot of care, the rewards are incredible. When you empty yourself out like that, your connection with your own higher self, I think that becomes the strongest voice that you hear, instead of all the pushes and pulls that you're getting from the society around you.
Well, I think this is like a very timely discussion because so many people are going through these energy downloads and not knowing what's going on. So I want to get a little bit into your book from the secret medicines from your gardens, because the herbal, the plant medicine, it seems to be very perfect for our bodies, what we're going through. Allopathic medicine, where people are emerging from more or less like integrative medicine into part herbal, part the prescription drugs. I know they're moving away from it, but they really need to have a good basis. And in this one particular book, and there's a few other books, I mean, you provide the tools and the information, and what I like is recipes here. Of how to look at your environment, see what's around you, and make use of it.
Well, for the last 2 million years, our bodies have been used to plants. We've been used to herbs and the plants that are out there in the fields and in the forests. We've been eating trees and flowers, and that's what we've been doing for 2 million years. And it's only in the last century or so that these very synthetic, concentrated medicines have been thrown at us. And, some of them are extremely necessary and very helpful, but others of them cause a lot of problems. People take them and then they get sicker because our bodies just can't handle those kind of chemical assaults all the time. So whenever possible, I mean, usually what happens is people will resort to natural medicines when they give up on allopathic medicine or, regular medicine. When they're desperate, they go, oh, okay, I'll try herbs, But what I would say to people is do it the other way around. If you have a condition, first of all, get a diagnosis. That's really important. Go to a doctor, have the tests done, blood tests, lab tests, all that. Have that done so you know what you have, so you know what you're dealing with. Once you have a diagnosis and you know what you're dealing with, then start with the natural approach first rather than waiting till the last minute, because often, but just by changing the way you're eating, changing your exercise patterns, meditating more, taking some herbs that are specific, some herbs go to the liver, some herbs go to the kidney, some herbs go to the stomach, some herbs go to the lungs. They all have their areas of influence. Do all of that, Make sure you're getting enough vitamin intake and fresh fruits and vegetables. Try all of that. And then if all that fails, then think about the synthetic medicines.
What I find, like I said, I'm very fascinated in my own healing and energy work is plants. Like I said, plant medicine is a big thing for me. But what disturbs me, and you made up a really good point, let's look at something and let's try the natural approach first. I think people have the idea is sometimes they want a quick fix. And they don't realize that with plant medicine, it's sometimes cumulative, and it brings the health crisis up. It makes sometimes you feel worse before you feel better.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the healing crisis. But one thing that I teach my students, I teach a 6-month course here in Massachusetts every year. And in fact, I just had students here yesterday, and we were talking about this. It's like, how do you know if what you're having is a helpful healing crisis, or are you just reacting to the remedy that you took? So if you do have a healing crisis, first you need to know your symptoms really well. And then if you have a reaction, if it's the symptoms that you already have that are now suddenly getting worse, that means that your body is dealing with it, okay? If you have a brand new set of symptoms, say you took an herbal remedy and all of a sudden you have a terrible stomach ache that you didn't have before or a splitting headache, then you're reacting to the remedy. So you just have to make sure what's going on. That's why it's always better to have a practitioner like an herbalist or somebody working with you. So, because when you're in the middle of a healing crisis, it's hard sometimes to separate out what's going on. And does that make sense?
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. This is a really good point to put out because I like good information brought out there. I look, and sometimes, we're all coming to a point to be a little bit more intuitive about our bodies. And just because someone says, you have to be careful on some of the things that you listen to. And that's why like I said, I saw this book of yours, Secret Medicines from Your Garden. It's not just because I was talking to you. I've read it and, gone over it thoroughly. And it has such a great approach, and it's a good resource book, and it gets people started to think. Because for a lot of the things that we're trying to bring out to people, you are to be empowered about your life, to look what's going on, see what patterns happening. Just like Ellen says, sometimes you're overcome by so much in the world, you need to withdraw. And I think that's what the great healers of the world always say, withdraw, detox, if you can, clear yourself. I think many of the sages of many different cultures have, promoted this. The indigenous elders go on vision quests, Become aware of what you are and what your body is, and work with all these tools. Find information that you think is good, that you're drawn to, and work with it. Like I said, I think this is where the world is headed. So it's really wonderful to find books like yours. It really is. The information's great, and I was laughing at one point when I was looking at your one of the recipes. I have a few acorn trees here, and this year it was just monsters, acorns all over the place. You walk under them, get hit in the head by them. In the beginning, I'm saying, "Oh, this is great for the squirrels," but when you're trying to blow leaves, you have this amount of acorns. And
well, you know what I find so kind of funny about this. This occurred to me around 2008. When the economy crashed and everybody was panicking and people were losing their jobs and their savings. That year was an acorn year.
Really?
Oh yeah, the trees were just dropping millions of acorns everywhere, and I said, "Look at this. Nature is providing everything that we need. It's right in front of our eyes. Because you can make bread out of acorns. You can make cake out of acorns.
I know, that's why I was fascinated.
Cookies, all kinds of things. And there was nature trying to feed us. Here, everybody was in a panic, I'm losing my money. I'm losing my job. How am I going to survive? And what is nature doing? She's saying, here, eat, 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 and very few people listen. They just don't have the ears to hear or the eyes to see that nature is always providing. And that's why it's really important for us to have nature. We have to make sure that nature survives, because that's the place that we can always turn to for food and medicine if we know how to do it, No,
that's true. And, we'll continue a little bit, then we're going to go into your other book, okay? When we come back.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you want to be a better communicator? Do you want to better connect with the important people in your life? Do you want to enrich your relationships? If so, join me, Matthew Cooper, on the Positive Control System Show every Wednesday evening at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on OMTimes Radio. I'll meet you there.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness in action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. The cutting edge of conscious radio. OMTimes Radio, IOM-FM.
I had some of those acorn recipes a few months ago. because I couldn't
Next year,
believe.
there's always next year in the fall.
I'll tell you, it was hysterical. And I remember where my husband and I walked, we're getting hit in the head with the acorns. You wanted to get this hard hat. And I'm going, where are the squirrels? Whether they were taking cover or what, I don't know. I know reading your book, The Secret Medicine from Your Garden, you kind of got me inspired in the spring to grow herbs. Now, my question for you is, with all the products, with the worries about pesticides and stuff, or even some of the seeds, where would you suggest that if I were to say, all right, I want to look for certain herbs and I want to grow them, where would I get the seeds or the plants? Because I don't want to really go through the effort of, growing these only to find out, there's pesticide. If I'm going to try to do it, I want to do it right.
Well, first of all, don't spray your gardens.
No, that I don't.
But I mean, I'm very big on wildcrafting, as you probably noticed. I mention a lot of things that grow wild. Mm-hmm. I live in the woods. I live in the forest, which means I don't have much light around the house, so I can't actually have a big garden. I just don't have that. But what I do is I forage on trees, and I walk to meadows and fields, and I forage there. I get things. That's what I'm big on. In the book is divided into the herbs of spring, the herbs of summer, the herbs of fall and winter. Mm-hmm. So you can go through the seasons. But my suggestion to people, I mean, if you want to grow your own stuff and you have plenty of land and light, that's the important thing. Yes, you can grow things like, you can grow your own echinacea, for example. That would be wonderful. I mean, you can grow mint in a shady area. You could grow your own chamomile. You can certainly grow roses and get your own rose hips, But I would suggest the way to start is just to go out into your own area, whether it's your backyard or a nearby park, and try to see what's already there and start learning about what the indigenous plants are in your area, and find things that grow in great profusion. If you only see one of something, don't pick it because, there's this old Native American saying, you can walk by the first 7, leave the 8th for the animals, and then you can take the 9th. And I learned that from a Penobscot woman, beautiful woman. But be very conscious, that when you do pick something, make sure that there's a lot more to propagate the species for the next year. There's nothing worse than, I've seen this, where people come in and they dig up every single plant of a certain medicinal species, and then the next year there's nothing. That just breaks my heart when I see that. But you're in New Jersey. I'm in Massachusetts. I don't know what grows in your area.
Yeah, I was just even, all right, the piece of land we have 5 acres, and I think we have an abundance of poison ivy. Okay. No, we have a lot of flowering trees. We have wisteria. We have, the dogwoods, and we have the pines, and we have this particular piece of land has a lot of white birch.
Okay, well, everything you said is medicinal. Do you know what kind of dogwood you have?
I know we got to think of white dogwood.
Okay, but does it have fruit?
No.
In the fall?
Not that I've seen. Maybe actually haven't even looked, to tell you the truth. I know we have English holly on the side of the house here.
Those are all medicinals. Some of the dogwoods have actual fruit that you can eat. It tastes like
I was going to say
incredibly sweet melon. But the inner bark of dogwood is very good for colds and fevers. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then pine, of course, I don't know what kind of pine you have. Do you know what kind of pine it is?
Oh, gee, I don't know. We have so many evergreens, and we have junipers, and just this whole thing is just all
Okay, well, juniper, the berries are a wonderful kidney cleanser, which you can collect. And, I talk about that in the book. I have a whole chapter on conifers. The new growth of pine is something I like to collect, the very new growth, hemlocks, pines, things like that. You can freeze the new growth and save it for later, make ice cubes out of it. It's very high in vitamin C, antiseptic, perfect for sore throats, colds, things like that. You can also add it to salads. You can make tea out of it. What else did you say? Birch. Yeah,
Birch. We have the white
birch, or is it brown? Is it
no,
brown?
They're white because
they're white. Okay. Well, the white birch unfortunately doesn't have any taste to it. The river birch, which has kind of a brown bark, is the one that has incredible flavor. It tastes like wintergreen. But the white birch still has medicinal properties. The sap has betulinic acid, it's called, which is anti-tumor. So it's used for cancer, and it's anti-tumor. So, you could. There's also a fungus called chaga that grows on white birch, which you could collect, which is good for cancer and antiseptic for serious infections and things like that. But you could take a twig from the white birch and you could break it up and add it to a tea to get that. It's the inner bark that has the medicinal properties.
And the one thing I didn't see in your book that I was curious, I have two beautiful weeping willows.
Oh, willow. Yeah, I have willow in the book, don't I?
Oh. I looked in the back.
Did you look under white willow?
No. I didn't. What I did is, I looked in.
There are willows in the book. It's got to be in the book.
Oh, I'm sure. That's why I was just.
Yeah, if it isn't, that's a terrible fault on my part.
No,
willow is a fabulous medicinal. The weeping willow is actually from China, but all the willows, there's 40 different kinds of willow, around 40, maybe more, in the United States. The weeping one, Salix babylonica, is actually Chinese. But any willow that you find, you can use medicinally. And again, it's the inner bark, and you simmer that, and you make a tea. And aspirin, which we're all used to taking, aspirin is actually synthetic willow bark. So I like to use willow bark rather than aspirin. And I get capsules. I get willow bark capsules, from the health food store.
Uh-huh.
Or I order them from, Frontier, Mountain Rose, anybody that has them. Because when you use the bark, you're getting all kinds of extra good ingredients, minerals, buffers, concomitants, all kinds of other things that are in the tree. Whereas aspirin is just one isolated principle that was synthetically created. It was one of the first drugs ever made, by the way. Aspirin, heroin, and cocaine were the first ones. But aspirin is literally synthetic willow bark. So why not go with the bark? So anything that you think of aspirin for, aches, pains, fever, insomnia, nervousness, whatever you take aspirin for, the willow bark will do. I like it even better. And people who have a heart condition and their doctor says take one baby aspirin every day.
Right.
If you take 2 capsules of willow bark, that's the equivalent of one baby aspirin.
Oh, really? Yeah, no, that's what I said. I'm going to be walking around because you also have pictures of, many different leaves and things to identify.
Right.
Because honestly, I have so many beautiful trees here. We should find a good purpose for poison ivy, though.
Well, poison ivy is actually a wonderful homeopathic remedy. That's a whole other subject, but
I'll have to talk to you about that one day because my husband is German. He has very fair, thin, white skin. And no, it's poison oak. He walks past it and it attacks the skin and it's like skin almost melts. It gets it so bad.
You know what that's all about on a psychic level?
What?
fear of pain through intimacy.
Yeah, that's him.
That's what that plan is all about.
Oh, my heavens. Because, interesting. All of us are very
You know,
interesting.
the way that he could become less sensitive is, do you know anybody with a goat?
No, not around here.
Well, if you could find a goat and feed the goat poison ivy or poison oak, and then have him drink the milk, that would be
Now,
really...
that's really weird because my husband has a thing against goat cheese or anything with ghosts.
Really? Well, the only other thing you can do is in the very early spring when the poison ivy first comes out and the leaves are still red, and they have to be still red,
Mm-hmm.
he can eat one or two little tiny red leaves. Not when they're green, it's already too late, when they're red.
Good. Okay.
Or he could take homeopathic poison ivy, which is Rhus tox, and that won't hurt him.
Yeah, I might have to actually look into that because, like I said, he's very agreeable to some things, but, some things he looks like, you're nuts.
Well, maybe the homeopathic poison ivy, Rhus tox, would be the best approach.
Yeah. Now, getting into trees, I want to bring up the subject of Druids when we have a little chance because we're going to go into a break in another minute. And I want to get that last segment about this in your new book. Was there a thing about trees for you? I mean, like me, I just love trees. I talk to them.
Well, like I
feel
said,
them.
I live in a forest, and what happened was I moved to New England, and I'm in the same house that I've been in for 30 years now. But when I first moved here, I actually moved from Philadelphia. I was living in Philadelphia before that. And in Philadelphia, I remember that we had roses up until December, and then by March, you could be planting things. Here...
I was going to say, we'll have to continue this after this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
okay.
Sorry.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Healing Light, on OMTimes Radio every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Healing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
Hi, this is Angela Levesque, host of Entanglement Radio. Join me Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern for inspiring conversations with visionaries in spiritual science and conscious healing. Entanglement Radio, Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern. Transcendent talk for the conscious mind.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community, bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
the next part of your spiritual journey getting drawn into further work with the trees and tree spirituality?
Yes, I want to say, first of all, I have a book out called A Druid's Herbal of Sacred Tree Medicine, which I've traveled a bit in Ireland and Scotland and England and so on. That's all traditional spiritual and medicinal properties of trees. There's nothing that I made up in there. It's all footnoted, and it's so if you're seriously interested in using trees herbally, I suggest that book, A Druid's Herbal of Sacred Tree Medicine. I am a Druid. I've been a Druid since 1984, and I have another new book that's actually coming out in April, but you can already pre-order it on Amazon. It's called A Legacy of Druids, Conversations with Druid Leaders of Britain, Canada, and the United States, past and present. And what I did was I traveled all over Britain, Ireland. I communicated with Druids in Scotland, Canada, all over the U.S., and interviewed them, basically. And it's actually becoming a very important book because a number of the people that I interviewed have since passed over. And so these are some of the last words, that we'll have. But if people are seriously interested in Druidism, which is the ancient Celtic path, the old religion, I highly recommend that book. It's called A Legacy of Druids because it'll give you a sense of the scope of all the different practices and beliefs that Druids have.
Where can they find, so when I was looking at your website, I think the one that the page that caught my eye was Willow.
Willow's Grove?
Yeah. You have
that's an old website.
Well,
That's not my website anymore. My website is EllenEvertHopman.com. That's ELLEN, EV as in Victor, ERT, HOP as in Paul, MAN.com. That's my website, and all my books are on there.
Okay, because I think, don't ask me how I got to it, but I noticed all those books that, we were talking about, except for your new books.
Yeah, no, that website I haven't had since 2003, I think.
Oh, good grief. Leave it to me to find that one. Okay.
But yeah, go to EllenEvertHopman.com. You can also just go to Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com. My books are all there. If you just Google my name, my website will come right up, or you can just, order the books wherever you usually order books. But the new books are Secret Medicines from Your Garden, and then the new Druid book is called A Legacy of Druids. Secret Medicines just came out February 14th, I think, was the day it came out, and the Druid book is officially coming out April 29th, but you can already pre-order it, and I have copies, so the book does exist.
Well, I think I wanted them to become familiar with some of the other books, because I had told you personally I was interested in looking at the one about was it kitchen medicine from your kitchen?
Oh, Secret Medicines from Your Kitchen. Yeah, first I wrote Secret Medicines from Your Kitchen, then I wrote Secret Medicines from Your Garden. Secret Medicines from Your Kitchen is a really good book for beginning herbalists, and also I think of it as a companion book to the book Walking the World in Wonder, a children's herbal, which is...
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's really important.
Yeah, homeschoolers really like Walking the World in Wonder because it's all, I think it's 75 different projects to do with medicinal plants that you can do with kids. And then Secret Medicines from Your Kitchen goes into the foods and spices that you already have in the kitchen and tells you how to use them to make teas and simple home remedies and so on. And this is really important information because this is the kind of stuff that everybody used to know. Everybody used to turn to the kitchen first, to the garden to get food and medicine, and you only went to the doctor if you absolutely had to. You know, it wasn't this thing where you run down to the pharmacy every day, you know. And so I just think it's really important. It's basic human knowledge that we need to have, that a lot of people have forgotten, and we need to get back to that, you know.
Yeah, I totally agree. It was sort of like I was familiar with my grandparents came from a farming town in the Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And then they came to the States. And I remember my father, when we had whooping cough, he would come up with the weirdest concoctions.
Yeah,
But I'm still alive, though.
Yeah, they knew what to do, exactly. And yeah, that's, you know, my book, Secret Medicine from Your Garden, will teach you how to do that with the plants in your backyard. And Secret Medicine from Your Kitchen will teach you how to do it with the foods and spices that you already have in the kitchen. You don't even have to go out and buy anything. You already have all this stuff. You know?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's, you know, I'm glad you're bringing all this up because, you know, I even know some people on my Facebook page, or there's one woman, Kim, she's very much into homeschooling, and she knows many people that are involved in this. So she has her own gardens out in Kentucky. And, you know, it's a fascinating subject, and I think more and more people are getting drawn into it. And as far as the children, I think that the kids, I mean, they're very smart, the ones coming in, but, you know, as parents, we need to remind them to respect the land, see the land is something beautiful.
Right, and this is why we have to be so aware of what's happening to nature, because if we lose nature, then we're going to lose all this. We lose the pharmacy, we lose the food, we lose all of that. And, you know, nature has been feeding us for 2 million years. Nature knows what we need better than we know ourselves.
And that brings up the subject of being good to the bees.
Oh, boy, yeah.
I know, that's why I could have a 3-hour show with you.
Yeah, there's an old Welsh saying, the day the bees stop humming, the world will end. That's actually an old Welsh saying. And Albert Einstein figured out, this was in his lifetime, he figured out that if we kill the bees, humanity has 4 years, and then we're gone.
Really? Because I even know as a kid, all the grounds, even in my parents' yard, always filled with clover. And when you're a little kid and you're running around, you always try and go, please, you don't want to, you know, annoy the bees. And now I look at my land now, and you rarely see any bees around.
That's right. I can remember years ago I had this beautiful rowan tree, mountain ash, next to the house. Years ago I used to sit under that tree in the spring. That tree would be in bloom, and it would be covered with bees. And now I'm lucky if I see one or two.
Yeah, it's getting a little...
it's very scary.
Yeah, and the one other thing, so much to bring up.
Yeah.
On your book, The Secret Medicines from Your Garden, with the bees, you have a lot of recipes concerning how to infuse honey. Or
there's a whole chapter that's just about honey and things to do with honey, yeah.
Do you think, when you say buy local, do you think like the honey in New Jersey is totally different than the honey in Massachusetts? I know that's a dumb question, but I figured I'd ask.
Well, you should get honey that's local to where you live. I live in Massachusetts, so I need to be eating honey that's from local apiaries. You live in New Jersey, you should be eating honey from New Jersey, not China.
Mm.
And by the way, some of the honey from China isn't even honey. It's just sugar syrup with artificial coloring, and some of it even has lead in it. So if you see something that says, you know, honey syrup or sweet syrup or something like that, and it says made in China, you can't even always tell if it's made in China because sometimes the importer will be, say, in New Jersey, so it'll say New Jersey, and you think it's from New Jersey. But don't be fooled by that stuff. You need local honey from a local apiary, a beekeeper. The reason for this is that you live in a specific environment where there are specific plants. By eating the local raw, again, it has to be raw honey, not pasteurized. By eating the local raw honey from your area, you will be taking in pollen, from the specific plants where you live in tiny little doses, and then your body will build up resistance so that you don't have allergic responses to those plants. So if you're eating honey from California, or I've seen agave syrup, for sale in the health food stores, which is really nuts because that comes from the Southwest. You don't want to be eating honey from, Mexico or something. It's just that it won't, it'll be sweet, okay, but the real benefit for you is local honey from your area. That's how you build up your immune system. That's how you build up your resistance to allergies, and it'll just make you healthier.
And I'm glad you, like that. To me, I felt a little silly asking the question, but it really is very important. Now we're at the end of this, so I thank you. And before the music gets too loud, please just tell them your website again.
My website is Ellen Evert, Evert Hopman, HOPMAN.com, EllenEvertHopman.com.
Thank you, Ellen. It's been a wonderful talk.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay. We'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye now.
Bye.